What if I told you a few $1 billion could, in theory, make XRP worth trillions? It sounds completely bonkers, right? Well, that's exactly the rabbit hole that I fell into last night, and by the end of this story, I guarantee that your eyebrows will be doing some gymnastics just like mine were. So, I kept hearing whispers in the crypto alley that XRP could hit $100, even $1,000 someday. Now, honestly, I did a bit of a double take. $1,000 for one XRP. I almost spat out my coffee. I mean, XRP finally crawled back above $3 recently and everyone celebrated. But $100? $1,000? Well, those numbers sound like they belong in sci-fi. So I was this close, to rolling my eyes and just walking away. But something wouldn't let me. Curiosity grabbed me by the collar and said, "All right, genius, what if it could happen? What would it actually take?" And that was it. I dove headfirst into figuring out if these sky-high targets are pure hopium or if there's a slither of math that actually makes them plausible. So grab a snack because this turned into one of the craziest thought experiments that I've ever done in crypto. So picture this. I'm up late, the house is quiet, I've got 8 different XRP tabs open on my laptop, and I'm determined to settle an argument raging in my own head. Part of me is saying there is no way XRP hits triple digits. Do you even math, bro? But another part of me, probably the part that seen Bitcoin do the unthinkable, whispers, but what if? You know what I mean, right? It's that tiny voice that reminds you how in crypto, the absurd sometimes becomes reality. First, I had to understand why $100 or $1,000 per XRP sounds so crazy. And it came down to market cap. Right, it's a boring term, I know, but stick with me here. This is kind of where it gets interesting. XRP's circulating supply is about 59 billion coins. So if each were worth $100, the total value would be around $5.9 trillion. That's trillion with a T. So for context, that's bigger than the entire crypto market right now and even bigger than the market cap of gold. Yeah, XRP at $100 would theoretically be worth more than every bar of gold sitting in bank vaults and pirate chests worldwide. So let that sink in. Now, $1,000 per XRP? Well, you're going to be looking at a mind-melting $59 trillion market cap. Now, that would make XRP the single most valuable asset on Earth. Hands down, right? Now, it's no wonder that most investors just shake their heads at these predictions. It sounds impossible, almost delusional, right? That's kind of where I started, firmly in the skeptic camp. I've been in crypto long enough to know that big promises are usually just that, promises. But I also remember 2017, when XRP itself went from fractions of a penny to over $3 in a blink of an eye. It's a true story, right? If you'd bought XRP at $0.006 in early 2017 and held it past its peak, or at least near $3, you'd actually have made something like a 500x return. It's insane. Now, past performance does not predict future. Yada yada. Still, there's a little history nugget, is still why some people believe or refuse, in fact, and say never in crypto. Right? It's kind of like that kind of famous meme then, right? History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. And so I just kept digging. And here is where things took a turn. I stumbled upon a post from a crypto commentator named Rector, a guy who apparently loves calculating wild scenarios. It's my kind of nerd. Now, he did an assessment of how much new money would actually need to flow into XRP to hit those pretty lofty prices. Because here's the twist. You might not need a full $5.9 trillion or $59 trillion of actual cash to get XRP's market cap there. Now, it's counterintuitive, I know, but this is market cap in crypto. It's rather different than stock market caps. Now, I had to read that twice, of course, too, but think of it like this, and this is the analogy that finally made it click for me many years ago. Imagine a tiny little village with 100 houses, and if the last house sold for $1 million, suddenly all 100 houses are worth $1 million each on paper, and boom, that's $100 million of village real estate value. Now, even though only $1 million actually, traded hands in the last sale. So market cap is just like that, right? It's a headline number, not the amount of money that has actually exchanged hands. So in crypto, if buyers are willing to pay more for just a small slice of the pie, well, the entire pie's price tag inflates dramatically. So Zach Rector basically applied this idea with something that he calls market cap multipliers, something that we've been talking about on the channel for quite a few years. Now, it's a fancy way of saying that how many times larger is the change in market cap compared to the money that flowed in. So when XRP's price moves up, a relatively small amount of trading volume can sometimes pump the market cap to a much larger factor, or at least by a much larger factor. So it's lots of XRP tokens are sitting in cold storage, right? Or stubbornly kind of held by us XRP army folk, and not being sold. Well, even modest buying can jack up the price big time, right? Now, I've seen it happen on a much smaller scale, and maybe you have too. Now, those days when a kind of big buy order comes in and suddenly the price jumps and everyone's like, whoa, what just happened? You also have to bear in mind, we are living in a sum-zero game. Money isn't made magically out of thin air. It's only ever transferred between the different participants. Anyway, let's get back to Zach's magic math, if you want to call it that. It's actually just math. But according to his assessment, to reach $100 per XRP, we might need at least a net capital inflow of only $11 billion to $58 billion. So we're not talking trillions, but actually billions. Now, $11 billion is still a ton of cash, right? A ton of money, but don't get me wrong about that. But I don't have, that in my piggy bank, for example. But it's a far cry away from $5.9 trillion. So how could $11 billion possibly create a $5.9 trillion market cap? Now, this is through a multiplier effect of around about 536x. Now, he says this, right? Essentially, that each dollar pushing in could create roughly $536 of market cap value. This is because of how thin the order books and the hodlers not selling can amplify the price moves. So if a $58 billion if $58 billion flowed in, there's a smaller multiplier, around 101x needed. So my jaw was, of course, on the floor at this point, and I was like, are you telling me that there's a world where an only $11 billion influx, which, by the way, is roughly what a quarter of Elon Musk's net worth is, could theoretically, pump XRP to $1 trillion, or at least triple digits, right? It kind of sounds like fictional sorcery or financial sorcery, but I had to kind of remind myself, this is all theoretical, right? Markets don't always behave nicely in the real world. There's panic, there's FOMO, there's whales, there's regulations, and my personal favorites, tweets from Elon Musk at 3 a.m. Now, all of those can throw a wrench in any model, but still, the idea was kind of planted. And you can go ahead and test this one yourself. Take a look at, take a snapshot of market cap, take a look at the volume for the day, and see what volume relates to market cap, how much market cap moved based on the volume coming in. It's an interesting take. Naturally, of course, I had to see the $1,000 scenario too, because apparently I enjoy torturing myself with visions of untold riches. So for a $1,000 XRP, Rector kind of suggests net inflows of around $118 billion up to $589 billion. Now I know that range is super wide. He basically said somewhere between a 100 billion and $500 billion coming into XRP could, with multipliers, get us to $1,000 per coin. So if it were $118 billion, the multiplier needed would be 500x. If $589 billion came in, the multiplier would be more like 100x. Either way, they're gigantic numbers, world-shifting money. But again, consider how much value we throw around the global markets. The US stock market is like $40 trillion by itself. The global money supply in the hundreds of trillions. $500 billion isn't impossible on a worldwide scale. It's just highly, highly ambitious for one single crypto asset. Now, here is the kicker. Apparently, these multiplier assumptions, they aren't just fantasy. Zach claimed that he's seen XRP's market cap multiplier hit absurd levels during crazy trading periods. Now, he cited that one case in March where XRP's market cap jumped 212 times relative to the inflows within a 4-hour window. 212x in just 4 hours. Now, I didn't know what was in the water that day, probably pure adrenaline across the markets, but that is pretty wild. And he also says he's observed multipliers as high as 589x at times. Yes, 589. Now, that number is every XRP diehard knows rather well. So when I read that, I kind of chuckled to myself, a little XRP lore Easter egg. And I almost it's almost poetic, isn't it, right? If you know, you know. Now, at this juncture, I realized two things. One, that desperately needed some sleep. And two, maybe, just maybe, the $100 or the $1,000 XRP crowd isn't entirely crazy. They're mostly crazy, right? Kidding, of course. Or at least kind of, but they're not entirely, right? The math has some basis to it. It's extremely optimistic assumptions, if they do pan out, that is. Now, let's be super clear here before anyone runs off, at least to market buy a truckload of XRP. And yes, I'm looking at you, the guy in the back who's already halfway to the exchange. Now, this might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile, and you could lose all of the money that you invest. It's important that you do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video today is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, I'm glad that we got that out of the way. I know, disclaimers, they aren't fun, but hey, it's important. Crypto is risky, and I'm literally some person on the internet who likes analyzing numbers and telling stories. I'm not a psychic or your financial guru, okay? Now, let's get back to our regularly scheduled program. So, where were we? Ah, yes. I'm teetering on the edge of believing in unicorns and moon rockets. Now, at this point in my midnight research adventure, I decided to sanity check what the community thinks. So I hopped into our free educational Discord server. The link, by the way, is in the description, where a bunch of us crypto nerds hang out and tossed the question out there. All right, guys. Who here actually believes XRP can hit $100 or $1,000, and why? Boy, did that spark some debate. And by the way, if you haven't joined the Discord, you probably should. It's free, it's fun, and you're going to get front row seats to me over analyzing things in real time, plus a ton of knowledgeable folks to learn from. So reactions, they were all over the place. Some people basically posted the kind of laughing emoji and said, dude, lay off the hopium. Others pointed me to posts on YouTube videos of prominent XRP, enthusiasts who are utterly convinced that those price points are just a matter of time. It was like walking into a crypto bazaar, right? Every stall had a different opinion for sale. So let me give you a taste of what I found then, right? Beyond just our Discord, there's an XRP community commentator named Farina, a familiar name if you're on X following XRP news. Now, last month, he flat out said that no event would make him sell his XRP below $100. Let's think about that then, right? This guy is so confident that one day $100 will happen. Knowing that no matter what news or chaos comes, he is not hitting the sell button until the big 100. That's some serious conviction, or stubbornness, depending on your view, right? Now, Farina even argues that under normal kind of circumstances, XRP should already be above $100. And I read that and was like, normal circumstances. What's normal in crypto, right, my friend? But I kind of get his point to a degree here. He believes that the only reason that XRP isn't $100 now is because something is holding it back. Whether that's regulatory issues, manipulation, the alignment of all the planets, who knows? And then you've got folk like the Modern Investor, a popular crypto YouTuber, who in June commented that XRP's market is still early, basically because XRP isn't $100 yet. Now that implies that he fully expects triple digits at some point. It's just a matter of time. So early, I kind of love that, right? Calling a multi-tens of billions of dollars asset early because he thinks it's destined for so much more. And it only really escalates from there, right? In March, you had 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗧𝗧, he the founder of Black Swan Capitalists, and he said that, $100 is not enough for XRP. Not enough, right? Aim higher, he says. Right now, according to him, XRP, should actually be in the 6-digit range. Now, I had to kind of reread that to make sure that it wasn't just a typo. 6 digits is a minimum $100,000 per coin. Now, at that price, I could literally buy a small country with my bag, right? Or at least a really nice private island with coconuts and dancing parrots. Look, right? I'm an optimist as much as the next person, but 6 digits is even where I draw a line and say, all right, that's kind of absurd. But hey, that's what he said. Maybe he is thinking in terms of far-off futures where XRP underpins the entire global financial system or something, right? I won't pretend to know, I'm just reporting the absolute craziness. And then there's a crypto COO from a company called CryptoGuard who predicted in April that XRP will reach $1,000. So by comparison to 6 digits, $1,000 almost sounds quaint, doesn't it? Like, oh, only 1,000? Oh, sure, why not? Now, this, of course, is how numb one can get when throwing around gigantic numbers. It's all kind of like Monopoly money after a while. Now, I share all this not to make fun of these people, of course. Okay, maybe I chuckle at a couple of them, but really to show the spectrum of belief that is out there, right? On one end, you have hardcore skeptics, right? And I was close to the other end at first, saying, nah, $10 is hard enough, forget $100. And on the other end, you've got people practically tattooing XRP $10,000 on their forehead. And here I was kind of ping-ponging somewhere in the middle, trying to make sense of it all with actual data and a clear head. So after absorbing all of that, where did I land? Well, I'm a kind of newfounded kind of believer in the $1,000 XRP. Or, do I actually think that it's all just pipe dreams? And the truth is that I'm somewhere in between, right? I know, right? A lot of thrown rotten tomatoes at me for not really taking a spicy stance. I get it, right? But here is the deal. Mathematically, right, thanks to the multiplier effect and weird market dynamics, I can't say that it's impossible, right? I mean, the very analysis that we walked through shows that it's possible for a relatively small amount of net capital to create outsized priced movements. Now, we've seen mini versions of that in crypto before. I mean, just take a look at BTC as an example. We all know that there's billions of inflows for ETFs, but we have trillions in market cap, right? We know that there's a disconnect, and there is a multiplier there. And if XRP truly gets the kind of real-world utility that it most deserves, or that the fans hope for, like, if banks worldwide started using it en masse, or if some major new kind of use case emerges, who's to say what the demand and thus price could become decades from now? And on the flip side, practically speaking, getting those kind of inflows, tens of billions, let alone hundreds of billions of fresh dollars into one single cryptocurrency would likely require a level of adoption and market mania that we've really only seen with Bitcoin ETFs at this point. Now, it would mean not just crypto enthusiasts, but governments, institutions, everyone kind of piling in. That's a bit of a tall order. Now, I'm optimistic about it, but I'm also realistic. So for me, $1,000 XRP goes in the kind of bucket of I'll believe it when I see it. $100 XRP, maybe it's slightly more grounded. But even that would need perfect confluence with other factors, regulatory green lights, big partnerships, global economic shifts that favor crypto, you name it. Not to mention a hefty dose of FOMO from the public, which ETFs could drive. And hey, it really could happen, right? Stranger things have happened in the past, like a dog-themed meme coin briefly becoming a top 5 cryptocurrency on the back of Elon Musk. Remember that? Now, one more thing that I have to mention is how this exercise changed my perspective. Right? Initially, I was almost mocking the $1,000 talk, but going through the numbers, I gained a respect for how complex markets really are. And I've been talking about how market cap is misleading for years, and hopefully this explanation gives you a bit of an insight into that. Because market cap isn't just a simple equation of money in equals market cap out. It's more like a dance of sentiment, liquidity, and mathematics. A big takeaway for me, just don't dismiss something outright just because it sounds absolutely crazy. After all, in 1999, $50,000 Bitcoin would have sounded crazy, right? I mean, no one knew what Bitcoin was in 1999. Didn't even exist, right? Internet money, magical internet money, right? It would have been crazy, absurd. Nobody would have thought about it, right? Just in the same way that email was crazy back then. And in 2017, $3 XRP sounded crazy to those who saw it, kind of luggish at, half a penny for years. But yet it happened. So I'm keen, I'm keeping an open mind, of course, and I'm still going to be managing, or also while managing my kind of expectations here, right? Hope for the best, but prepare for more realistic, And on that note, I also made a little personal pledge. No matter what the price target people kind of shout from the rooftops, I'm going to stay level-headed. If it pumps, great. I'll figure out my plan. Maybe finally take some profit instead of just diamond handing into oblivion. And if it doesn't, that's also okay too. I'm in this for the long haul and for the tech, not just for all the Lambos. Or so I tell myself. Now, before we wrap up, I've got a quick shout out, right? If you're trading or accumulating XRP, or any crypto really, I've been using Kraken Pro lately. It's a solid exchange with some nice low fees for advanced trading. I'll put my affiliate link down in the description for Kraken Pro, which helps support the channel here if you do use it, and it costs nothing extra for you. It's just a little kickback for me. So as always, totally optional, but if you do use it, thank you in advance. It generally helps me keep this kind of content coming. And of course, our Discord community, link below, is open for you whenever you want to debate with me or others on these kind of numbers, or if you just want to share memes or even just learn from others, you can come on in. It's completely free and it's full of smart, welcoming people. So, can XRP really hit $100 or $1,000? After this whole journey, my answer is I wouldn't bet my life on it, but I also won't say never. It's a long shot, absolutely, but it's not pure fantasy. There's a path, narrow as it may be, for it to actually happen under extraordinary circumstances. If nothing else, thinking through it has actually been an eye-opener, right? It reminded me why I find crypto so damn fascinating. It's the one place where daydreamers and data actually kind of mingle. One day you're laughing at price predictions and the next you're double checking the math because some part of you goes, maybe. And that maybe is one of what keeps us all on the edge of our seats. So in the end, whether XRP soars or not, I'm glad I went down this rabbit hole. I got to flex my brain, challenge my own beliefs, and take you along for the ride. So if you've made it this far, I hope you found this as entertaining and intriguing as I did making it. And hey, let's continue this conversation. Let me know what you think. Is $100 or $1,000 completely outrageous? Is it inevitable or just fun speculation? I'll be lurking in the comments and in the Discord, popcorn in hand. And if you've enjoyed this little adventure, be sure to subscribe and stick around, because who knows what rabbit hole we're going to explore next. I'll catch you in the next one.